All right, now off to one of the more difficult political relationships in the country. That's the one between Ontario Liberal Premier Kathleen Wynne and the country's Conservative Prime Minister, Stephen Harper. The issue at hand is really a simple one, a call repeated today by Wynne to meet with the Prime Minister. Just a meeting. Seems like a simple request, right? Premier of the country's largest province getting together with the country's Prime Minister. But when they met a year ago, Wynne came out of that meeting and said Harper smirked at one of her requests. Smirked, that is the word that she used. And then during the Ontario election, Wynne campaigned against Harper at least as much as she did against Tim Hudak, the PC leader. And now she wonders why the Prime Minister is not so keen to take her meeting. He has instead directed his ministers to meet with her ministers. So should we make a big deal out of this? Well, let's ask Senator Bob Runciman, who sits in Stephen Harper's caucus, but of course served 3 premiers in Ontario, 3 PC premiers.
Actually, yeah, 3.
Miller, Harris, Eves.
In Eves, that's right.
All Conservatives who had Liberal Prime Ministers to deal with.
Yeah.
Did it ever get as bad between a Conservative at Queen's Park and a Liberal here in Ottawa as it seems to be now? And I don't blame to say that's blaming the Prime Minister in this case.
You know, I can't recall that kind of a sour relationship at all. You know, we can go back to Davis and working with Trudeau.
Right.
And Mike Harris and Chrétien had an excellent relationship. You know, they phoned each other on their birthdays. They played golf together.
Of course, the golfers, yeah.
You know, they disagreed on some key issues, but they were able to stay away from sort of the snarky comments that Ms. Wynne delivered, and really, I think, didn't publicly go after each other. And I think that Ms. Wynne set the stage for this, really, with her approach, her attitude, her conduct during the election, and the comments she's made over the course of her tenure. And
we're just seeing in a report by our friends in the Globe Mail this afternoon saying, quoting Liberal sources at Queen's Park, saying that Wynne deliberately campaigned against Harper to, quote, distract the media from the gas plant scandal.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be surprised by that. And I don't think we were distracted. We still tried to raise that issue. But nonetheless, you know the Prime Minister, you've obviously been in a caucus room with him. He doesn't mind some frank discussion. You can go ahead and disagree with him.
Yeah.
He, probably like a lot of people, just gets a little annoyed if you take it outside the room and try to embarrass him outside the discussion.
I think you've described it perfectly, and I think any of us who are in politics and public life, I mean, if you have a private conversation, you assume it's going to remain private and that someone's not going to go out and publicly try to criticize you and the approach you took during that meeting. So I think, you know, she's damaged herself, and by so doing, she's in some ways damaged the voice of Ontario. But I'm sure that, you know, the Prime Minister is not going to, in any way, shape, or form, shortchange Ontario. We understand it's the biggest province in the country. It's in serious economic difficulty, and certainly I think the federal government will do what it can to try and improve the economic conditions in the province. But
well, this is the interesting thing looking to next year, because of course a lot of the same voters who voted for Kathleen Wynne just a few months ago, many of them would have voted for Stephen Harper in 2011.
That's right.
And of course the Conservatives expect many of them to vote again for Stephen Harper next year. So it's an interesting sort of political issue. My sense is that the Prime Minister or his advisors are happy to have this year for Kathleen Wynne to maybe lose a bit of the shine that happened a few months ago, and that voters will be voting for Harper as a way to vote against Wynne. Am I reading too much into that, maybe?
Well, I'm not so sure she has much of a shine to be
right off
the top, because I think she was, you know, I think that she was an alternative selection in that election, because folks weren't happy with essentially with the Progressive Conservative campaign, and so I would argue that she won that election by default. So I don't think she has a great shine. And now you look at what's happening, you know, scandal after scandal, mess after mess, and the economy seems to be going in the wrong direction on a consistent basis. So I don't think she's going to have an awful lot of shine going forward.
Now, let's talk about the PC leadership race. You've endorsed Lisa MacLeod.
Yeah.
You've seen the 5 candidates, and there is a common denominator among them all, that they all agree, as you just said, that it wasn't the greatest campaign that the PCs ran last time out, and that grassroots need, you see a lot of people talking about more grassroots control. Do you like those ideas? Do you like some of the ideas that you've seen so far in this leadership campaign?
Yeah, I like all the candidates. I think that there has to be more of an effort to consult. There's no question about that. I can go back to the Eves campaign, and a number of us, and you know, I'm a great fan of Ernie Eves, but there wasn't the consultation with our own caucus during that campaign, and I think the John Tory campaign, which I think we should have won that one as well.
Yep.
But, you know, John, he heard us, but let's say he didn't listen to us on that issue. And unfortunately, I think that was the turning point in that campaign as well. So I think any new leader has to make sure that they're reaching out and they are actually listening to the grassroots and their own caucus, who are in contact with the grassroots on a daily basis almost. So I think that's where we've fallen short in the last few elections.
And again, you're seeing some hopeful signs so far in this race.
I think we've got good candidates. Lisa, I think, has some special qualities. She's a very down-to-earth person, easy to talk to. She represents a riding which has both the rural and urban mix. She's energetic, dynamic, and I think a colorful individual, and I think
yeah, she's got lots of fire and spunk.
Lots
as they
of
say.
fire, and being a female, I don't think hurts at all. I think we've had a problem with that demographic, and so I think it'll be a factor as well.
Senator Bob Runciman, have a great Christmas. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Same to you and your family.